What's going on there, folks? Good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this finally Monday. Just kidding. It is Monday, May 1st, 2023. Happy May 1st. Goodness. Already. It is about 12:11 p.m. here along the west coast in the state of California. And latest earthquake shows a 1.8 into the Alaska region. The latest earthquake here on the globe. Let's go ahead and check out what's been going on here since last night. Still kind of watching the Southern California area. Let's go ahead and zoom in here to the North American plate. Here with the states, we do have a little bit of activity ramping up here around the New Madrid seismic zone within the last hour. A 2.8 coming in to the Tennessee area. This is a major seismically hazardous zone. It did have some rather large earthquakes back in the 1800s here. Upper sevens that created quite a bit of havoc out there. This earthquake today just kind of gives us a good indicator that this fault system is still very much alive, and I'm sure accumulating some stress out there for the next big one. When that will be, who knows? A little bit of activity across Oklahoma as well. Looking into the southern portion here of the California area, looks like this swarming region has died off slightly. We do have a little bit of earthquake activity here near the lakeside area outside of San Diego with 1.5. Far as specifically the swarm that we've been monitoring, it's pretty much been 3 different areas here in Southern California, 3 separate swarms. Looks as though things have died off since about, well, 2 o'clock or so in the morning. With a 1.4, the latest being that earthquake there. I want to bring up, let me see if I can bring up the seismograph stations here in SoCal and just double check with the swarming, because a lot of times these events will not get reported, and these individual seismograph stations are a really good thing to have and monitor in terms of viewing the activity. So we're going to check this one out here. El Centro, the last Webby quarter, and well, goodness, I would say the swarm is still continuing, but just not being reported. You guys see all that activity? Let me double check now again here. It's a little on the fishy side. That's El Centro, very close to the swarm. Now let's check out this station right here, CIDR. It's a Desert Research Extended Center up here. We're going to check out the last little bit of activity. Still, that's showing some movement as well, and this just goes back the last 4 or 5 hours, it looks like, and that's earthquake activity. And I'm not for sure why we're not reporting it. They just completely put a halt to the earthquake reporting down here. But all right, let me dig into this a little bit deeper here. To me, that looks like earthquake activity. Let me check out the... let's go over here to... Yeah, it's probably about the closest station right here near the El Centro area. I want to look at the previous days and see what we're looking at. So this is going to be from... let's see, this goes back to UTC time of May 1st. This is all last night, it looks like, and there's still earthquake activity here. Here is today's, that's last night's, today's activity. You guys see that? There's still earthquake activity ramping up here in the past few hours. It looks like it's about the same. With no earthquake activity, obviously it's going to be... let me zoom this up here a little bit. These lines, right? This is a Webby quarter line. We've all seen that seismogram with the needle and the rotating drum with paper on it. Well, this is just the digital version of it. That, you know, obviously it's neat to see. It's a digital. But that's what it looks like when there's no earthquake activity. Say, for example, where the arrow is following. There's a little blip of an earthquake there, but these other signatures are earthquakes, and that is from last night. Here is the most recent activity, and it still looks like this swarm is continuing here, folks. That's why I like to double check seismograph stations, the actual Webby quarters themselves, because you can't lie. You can't make this stuff up here. This is a recorded data coming off here. So I am not for certain why the USGS put a stop to this at 2 in the morning, but they completely stopped reporting the earthquake activity. Let me give another glance here at a different station here. And of course, as we get further away from the swarming area, it will show up less. Not for sure what this is here. This is the most recent graph. That looks like some overblown seismograph waves. Let's see here. Check out. Just want to go back here a couple days ago. See, even this station right here wasn't really picking up the earthquake activity. So the ones that are is obviously the El Centro one from last night here and the one from this morning. So there is still localized earthquake activity occurring even up to this moment, it looks like. I'll look and see if I can't find, see if I can't access this station somehow and add it onto my viewer here. These are all seismograph stations all over the place, but a lot of times these are non-functionable. But it's a pretty cool program to monitor live data. Global Earthquake Explorer. Let's see if it's going to let me. There's a Desert Research Extended Center, but notice that I can't access it. It says no data available. So Imperial, no data available. Not for sure why, but so the closest station I have down there in Southern California is going to be this Barrett station right here. That has a little blip of an earthquake there, but this is a ways away from the swarming area. So I'll look into that, see if I can't add the El Centro station on. It might take a little while, but I would say, looking at the graphs here, that the swarm has not ended, according to what the USGS is stating here. You guys see that? This is our swarm. We can go back here over the last 7 days and look at the little bit bigger picture here. Look at that migration up north here along that area, along this fault system. So we had a swarm pretty much start off here around the Mexicali and El Centro area on a supposed Dixieland fault. I can't find a whole lot of info on it, but it does extend north towards the San Jacinto fault zone, which is a pretty lengthy fault that runs up into the San Andreas fault here at the northern section, but that northern section of the San Jacinto fault, southern end of the San Andreas fault. And the swarm started off here. Then we've seen a separate swarm over here, and then a little bit bigger swarm with a 4-pointer, 4.5, I believe, in this area. 4.3, it looks like. Let me double check and make sure. Oh, there's 4.5. We actually had a couple other 4s in there within minutes of each other. So this is definitely a little on the scary side to see this type of scenario with migrating swarms very close to the southern end of the San Andreas fault. And, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know how to compare it to, but it's, you know, a lot of people say this area is wound tight as can be here. The southern branch of the San Andreas fault, and is capable of producing an 8.1. So when I see a swarm of earthquake activity, well, originating south here off of the southern end of the San Andreas fault and then migrating north towards it very close, that's a little concerning. Regionally, this whole area has been under quite a bit of stress here over the last couple days, and, you know, as we've heard from professionals, little quakes do not relieve the bigger quakes. Even Dr. Lucy Jones, the face of the Southern California earthquake activity, you know, she kind of chimes in when we have earthquake swarms and large earthquakes and kind of discusses it. Very knowledgeable, no doubt. But she also states here, small quakes do not relieve stress to prevent big ones. And there's a little link here to Podbean. I've never heard of that. She's got a little article on there, it looks like. So go check that out if you want to read a little bit more on her theory on why little quakes do not relieve stress on the to prevent a big one. So let's look at the rest of the West Coast and see what we have. Any unusual activity following this swarm? It looks as though the activity further due west here on the Pacific, or the western Pacific side of the plate boundary here of the Pacific plate, all this activity over here along the northwestern section of the Filipino plate has temporarily relieved stress out here, I believe. We've seen that earthquake swarm tone down slightly since this pretty large swarm of fives kicked off here into the Okinawa area. This is just to the southeast here of the Okinawa region into, it doesn't look like it's down into the trench region. This is pretty shallow earthquake activity, and this could be a sign of some much larger movement about ready to take place in this area. But also we've seen some movement up here into the Japan region. So I kind of chat about that teeter-totter effect right now, or I have been, and right now it's kind of looks like it's playing its part here. But we haven't really seen any major large-scale adjustment over here to the west that would make me believe that the swarms are going to stop. I think we're just looking at a temporary pause, even though, I mean, on the map it looks like we're pausing, but even though that doesn't look like it. So I believe things are still kicking up here, but I can't magically go in and add earthquakes there onto their catalog book. I can just show you guys what is being reported here by the El Centro station. This is today's date, UTC time, up to right now. Refresh this, get the latest info. It's going to let me refresh. I don't know why it's not, but it's a little weird. Either way, if you guys want to check this out yourself, you guys just want to browse around and see what these seismograph stations are doing. The Southern California Seismic Network has a really cool site to monitor all this earthquake activity. You know, you can look at it independently and make your own judgment on if the swarm is still continuing. I believe it is. Obviously, I've been reading graphs for quite a while. These are not big earthquakes, but they're earthquakes, and they should be reported. There's no snowfall down there, I don't believe. There's no high wind events. High wind events can sometimes add a different reading on here, but these are earthquakes, no doubt. These are well-defined, legit earthquake signatures here on this graph. But I will provide this link here. I'll include it into the description of this update video so you guys can check it out. There's a lot of information on here. Talks about the swarming, live seismograph feeds, and a bunch of stuff. So go check it out after watching this video if you like. Let's look at the rest of California here. I'm not really seeing too much activity, at least listed up here on the map. And again, further east, there's that little earthquake out into the New Madrid seismic zone. Up into the Alaska region, looks very typical. This is all very typical movement across the area of Alaska. Back over here around Tokyo, looks like, yeah, see, all three of these earthquakes here into the Japan Trench are from yesterday. Doesn't look like we've seen any other adjustment over here. Maybe one hidden in the mix there underneath all that older activity. The white rings indicating some newer movement. Looks like there may be a recent 4 in there from today. But the activity still continuing across the Papua New Guinea area westward into Indonesia. But one area I've noticed an uptick, and we've been kind of watching this, right? We reported on some deeper movement quakes down here into the Kermadec Trench here. Oh, well, there's another deep one. That was this morning. But there's been one that was further south. Let me bring that up here. This swarm of activity down here. Deep, super deep movement here a couple days ago. And that continued all the way up until yesterday or the day before. We're waiting for some further surface activity. We've seen a little bit here along the Kermadec Trench. And it looks as though down into the New Zealand area, they're having a little bit of activity as well. USGS not picking up on that earthquake activity here There's a 4.2, and it looks like a couple other 3s into New Zealand. So let's go to New Zealand GeoNet servers and see what's being reported. 4.2 South Island, 50 kilometers southwest of Haast, it looks like, off the plate boundary. Let's see what we got. That's going to be, looks like this earthquake right here, right? 5 kilometers deep, 4.2, was felt by about 13 people, it looks like. Just some weak shaking being reported from that 4.2 2 hours ago. I'll bring up the earthquake drums. 4.2 is going to be right here, it looks like. Shown up pretty nicely there on the southern network. They're in South Island, New Zealand. Here's the seismograph station location there in the red dot. Here's the seismograph viewer. I really like this layout. It's pretty cool to see and maneuver around. Looks like it came up closest here on this station right here. As far as other earthquake activity, aside from that 4.2, there was some earthquake activity here in North Island, it looks like. Those are probably going to be the 3s that were listed on the earthquake 3D globe a little bit further north here. Actually, it looks like it's around the Wellington area off the coast. Okay, I see them. Kind of hard to tell if those are going to be 3s or not. It's going to be these quakes right here, those in question. Looks like from an hour or so ago. But either way, it looks like a little bit of adjustment taking place down here across the New Zealand area. Continue to watch that for some movement, considering all the deep activity here recently. But I still think we need to watch the West Coast here, California, until we get a little bit of relief, and that would mean a bigger quake here around the, I believe, somewhere around the Western Pacific plate here, potentially around the Philippine plate. Let's see, where's that one? What do we got? 1.0 coming in. Southern Cal. See, they're reporting earthquake activity. That they are, the USGS that is. But I don't understand why they're not reporting the data that's coming in here. It's just so weird. It has made the news. It looks like a couple networks have picked up on the swarming. Just want to look again and see what we got. See, it's still there, folks. Something's still brewing. That is still earthquake activity. So we'll check back on that. I'll see if I can't find a way to add this station onto the viewer. But for now, again, the closest station is going to be, looks like Barrett. I got to get rid of some of these other stations that didn't key up. But I'll take care of that here after the update. All right, moving on. Let's see, anything going on here across Hawaii? It doesn't look like there's anything newer popping up here. In fact, I find that kind of odd. Nothing being reported here across Hawaii since last night. I kind of find that hard to believe. So let's go to the hazard notification network here. We're just going to double check some stuff here. Latest update here from Kilauea Volcano. Currently not erupting according to the USGS here. Tilt meters in the summit region are tracking no substantial changes at this time, but some summit seismicity remains slightly elevated. Okay, but nothing's being reported. Let's go back to Volcano Hazards and just going to zoom in, see if I can't look at a couple web recorders here. If there's earthquake activity and it's not being reported there by the USGS, then that means there's some type of network issue as to why it's not being reported. But as always, it's good to go to the source. We'll see if any of these are working. That's not working. These triangles here are going to be the these seismograph stations. That one's not working either. What in the world is going on? Come on, guys. There is something working there. As far as earthquake activity goes, definitely looks like there has been about 3 hours ago or so. There's one earthquake right here, so we know there's some activity kicking up there across the Kilauea volcano. Let's see if any of these tilt meters are working. Doesn't look like it. Goodness. Stand by here for 1 second. I need to check something because I know Timothy sent me a link to the tilt meter here. Just stand by here for a second. Gotta see if I can find that here real quick. I'll have to get back to that. I seem to have lost the link here, but let's go back here to the screen so you guys can see what I'm seeing here. Just didn't want to bring up all my email here on the update video, but we'll come back and check on that a little bit later on tonight. But either way, it definitely looks like there is some earthquake activity, right? Kicking up across the Hawaii area as well. Let's check out Mauna Loa up here. Not working. Not working. That one's working. Definitely looks like some activity there over the last 12 hours or so. Nothing big, but still kind of gives me an indicator there that there is some earthquake activity ramping up, but not being reported there across the USGS map. Again, last earthquake. Well, this one now it shows like it shows some earthquake activity. What's going on here? Maybe I had largest first up here. I did. Look at that. Goodness, I got to remember that. Sometimes I forget about that. Okay, so definitely activity being reported by the USGS there. I caught that. I seen that. I was like, wait a minute. That can't be right. Okay, so either way, it looks like some activity being reported as noted there on the USGS map. We'll move on. Okay, what else we have here? Puerto Rico area. Looks like some threes kicking off here. One earthquake this morning so far, 3.2. North side here, Puerto Rico. .8 down south here off the coast of, looks like maybe Costa Rica area. So we got a little bit of activity off the coast of Panama potentially. So slight uptick into this area, and also South America has shown some uptick as well in the all across the Peru-Chile Trench. It looks fairly active. That activity showing up here on the USGS map as well. So we'll just kind of watch this today and see how it plays out. Again, I'm going to leave up the earthquake watch due to, well, what I'm seeing here across the graphs. I know I'm correct on this because this is today's date. Just double checking here. Sometimes I'll key up the wrong date, but this looks like today. Time frame from today. This is a seismograph, and those are earthquake readings. So I don't know what else to say about that. Those look like earthquakes for sure. We'll report back on that a little bit later tonight. Let's give a quick glance here at Yellowstone National Park, see if we got any unusual activity. Doesn't look like it. Things look fairly calm and clear across the area for now. All right, let's move on to the Space Weather Department here, where we did have an M7.1 kick up earlier this morning. Pretty nice peak. Did not produce a CME. It's a very sharp, impulsive flare. If this had produced a CME, this would be much more drawn out and a thicker line here, indicating a coronal mass ejection. But that's just a little flare that popped off. M7.1 from a sunspot region on the southwestern limb of the sun. 3288 here, which is now scooting its way further on the southwestern section here of the sun, and it's fairly active. We've been watching this pretty closely, but it looks like it wants to get its act together now that it's departing the Earth view. And we're left with got one sunspot up here. It does look like it may harbor a little bit of potential there for some flaring, and also a new numbered sunspot over here on the northeastern limb that we're kind of watching. That looks fairly complex. 3293. Overall threat right now looks like a 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 50, 10%, so a little bit of elevated possibility there for an X flare. And there is that an image of the M7.1 earlier today. Beautiful feature, fairly large M flare. Again, that was not associated with a CME. As far as the auroras go, doesn't look like we're seeing too much activity there kicking up. KP index up around 2 or so. Over the next couple days, fairly minimal activity. Not expecting too much in the way of solar wind events. All right, weather today, not a whole lot. In fact, over the next 3 days, things are very minimal across the board. Now, they did add here for day 4 a potential severe weather threat for portions of Oklahoma and Texas. That includes areas around Lawton, San Angelo, and Wichita Falls, Texas area. Again, that's extending up into a good portion of Oklahoma where we need that rain, but it looks as though things may have a possibility of being severe come Thursday. It looks like towards the late afternoon and early evening could see some large hail, localized severe gusts. We'll check out the potential tornado risk as that day gets a little bit closer, but for Thursday, just a heads up, there's a chance of severe weather out there. That could extend into Friday, but we'll watch that in the days ahead. All right, folks, have a good one. Again, I am leaving up the earthquake watch here for SoCal just due to the elevated activity. I am going to bring back up here the magnitudes a little bit closer to about 2.2 on the earthquake 3D globe so we don't get too overloaded with all the smaller quake activity. But still, you know, just be on guard and stay safe out there. We'll check out this Southern California activity and report back on it a little bit later this evening. Have a good one, folks.